Okay, so the W again for writing, the I for inquiry. This is one of the big key words that we've been using in our district, is making sure that the kids have the opportunity to utilize inquiry methods in what we do on a daily basis. We really want to stress this because this is one of the things that the state's really stressing now, is this inquiry piece to what we do. Collaboration, that should be pretty straightforward. We want our kids to have the opportunity to collaborate together in order to understand the bigger concepts. Sometimes when we start talking, our voice is not what they need and maybe not what they want. But when we have their peers communicating with them, we can actually reach deeper into the material because it's those inherent questions that they have that they're more willing to share with each other. So finding that way to collaborate is going to be key. Organization, this one's obvious. We want to be organized in every way that we can. We don't want to just be scatterbrained, and we don't want our ideas to be scattered across 500 different pieces of paper. We want to reduce it and condense it into the most important pieces at the most important times. And then last but not least, y'all know this, our kids have to be able to read. They have to be able to read in STAR, they have to be able to read in what we do on a daily basis when we put stuff up on the board, and so finding those reading strategies. So for our purposes today, what we are really focused on is how can we utilize Cornell notes. So I gave y'all a packet here, and on the front of that packet it has some information about what it means to utilize Cornell notes in a way that will be effective for us. And there are 4 sections of this to be part of the Cornell way. It's not as simple as taking a piece of information and writing it down on a sheet of paper. We have to have the ways that we are helping our students with their notes. It's not simply, I'm going to give a topic and I want you to write this information down. But giving the students the power and the opportunity to utilize those the right way. So the first part is the simplest part. It is the note taking. Creating a format that works for them and organizing their notes in a way that they understand it. The second part is what we call note making. So this is within 24 hours after they have taken the notes in our class, we want them to revisit their notes. And so that's the next part, the R, the N, the E. We want them to review and revise what they've already done. We want them to note key ideas in the Cornell note structure. And then we want them to be able to exchange ideas. And they can do this by collaborating. Now this can happen in the classroom setting where we give them an opportunity to revisit their notes at maybe the start of class as a bell ringer. Take out your Cornell notes, share with each other, that we can get that collaboration going. Or this can be something that they can do socially on their own time when they're at home. Maybe we instruct them to set up some sort of a group chat, or maybe they have an opportunity to Skype with each other. And what they're doing is they're talking through the notes that they've already taken in our class. Okay? The next one is note interacting. Okay? The biggest thing that we need from them from these notes is to be able to link the learning with other ideas and be able to synthesize the information. So this is where we are reaching very high level in our Bloom's taxonomy. Can they use the notes in order to solve some of these bigger problems, right? Can they apply the information? We've already identified that as one of our struggling areas. We've also identified communication as one of our struggling areas. So this right here, we have just solved potentially 2 of our problems with proper ability to take notes and using the Cornell way. And then the last part of this is note reflecting. Now this is one of the bigger and tougher issues for us as teachers. Okay? How is it that we can take the notes that they've used and give them some sort of written evaluative feedback? That's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it is difficult. So possibly one way we can do this in the future, if we think about it, is if we implement interactive notebooks in class and just take the opportunity to briefly read through what they have, make a little note on there and be able to provide that back to them the next day. So this is a kind of a bigger topic that can go in many directions, and one of them is interactive notebooks if that's something that we want to do later on. But the basic idea, let's start with this process of how to properly do notes. Okay? So I put up here the writing piece. Strategies include students writing down notes, writing questions, writing summaries of their lesson. If you will flip over to the second page, you will kind of see exactly where they would put this. So we have the topics on top, There's an area for the heading. There's an area for them to write the essential questions. We have the left third of the page where they can write questions down that they have. And then the right side of the page is where they're putting down some notes that they were able to take. These notes should always be in their own words. We don't necessarily want them to completely copy everything we put down because it might not be in a way that makes sense. One of the tools that we can use to make sure that we affect that in the right way is have those conversations with them. How would you restate what we just put up here on the board? And that gives them the opportunity to speak it, and then we can tell them, write that down. Write that down in a way that makes sense to you. Right? On the bottom there you can see the section where it addresses summary strategies, how they can summarize and where they can summarize. Okay, the I piece. How do we use Cornell Notes for the I piece? Obviously this is the area of their inquiry where they are coming up with the questions that we want them to write down using that left side of the page. Okay? I've also given you a blank copy of the Cornell Notes that you can see here. I use this in class. I keep some extra copies over here for my kids if they want to use them. So they have the ability, and it even says questions right here on the left side. And if you flip it over, same thing, questions on the left side, that's where they know. This is where my questions go. And the next day as we start a class, I can give them the opportunity to ask those questions out loud so that everybody can hear it, because a student might have that question and they haven't yet thought of it yet or thought to put it down in their paper. Well, now they will, because it's a question that they still have. All right. Obviously, collaboration. We've discussed this. Having the kids come in the next day, having them use the opportunity to speak with each other and really address the things that were, driving their thoughts the previous night or the previous day in class. Having them go through the information to make sure that they've covered all the ideas. And again, it will lead to further questions that we can address at the start of class to make sure that our entire group has it. And this is where we can see it's not just for our low-level learners. It's for our high-level learners as well and everything in between. Every single one of our students can benefit from this particular strategy. Okay? Organization, this one is rather self-evident, and as I was writing it, I was trying to make it not sound so self-evident, but it really is. It's an organized way for them to keep their information. I have the information from my teacher as well as my own thoughts all in one place that I can access whenever I need to. Now, we know that our students will take this piece of paper and they're going to put it in their backpack and we will never, ever, ever see it again. It is gone for good. It's like what happens when you drop something in your car and it goes under your seat. It's gone. We don't know where it goes, but it's gone. Same thing with their backpacks. So, for us, something that I put in the drive that I'm going to pull up here real quick for you from the Google Classroom is this. Okay? If you look in here, on the bottom of the page, I have put digital notes. So it says Avid 2-column notes and Avid 3-column notes. This right here for the students might be the simplest way for them to organize it. However you utilize phones in your classroom. In my classroom, phones are always acceptable as long as it's being used the right way. This is one of the ways that we can do it. It gives them the same opportunity to put the topics, the name and the class period, the essential question, and then they can organize their information in 2 columns. So I put this in my Google Classroom for everybody at the start of the year, and I told them, make a copy. So that's there for you. If you put it in your Google Classroom, now they've got the opportunity. They can use their digital technology to do the same thing that maybe a struggling student who doesn't write as well, now they can type it. Or maybe they can dictate it to themselves. Gives them the opportunity to utilize notes the way that works best. And then right here, this is the 3-column notes. And it's no different. It just organizes it in a 3rd column if they want to add some information, if they want to add some pictures, if they want to add some other piece that we're not necessarily doing in our Avid notes. Okay? Okay, I've spoken a lot. What questions do we have right now about any of this part of it? Using Cornell Notes to drive success for our students. Anything?
I get ready to implement it.
Okay.
Start using it. I mean, it's always been a tool since forever.
Yes.
Always don't really think about it.
And so like we discussed earlier, the biggest key here
I like
is...
that you have the online one.
Yes, the online ones are great, but this is the key. Students understanding that there is not one specific way that we are going to dictate for them to write their notes. This empowers them to do it because it's in their own way. Maybe they need 2 column notes. Maybe they need 3. Maybe they're not going to use the questioning side. Maybe they want to put questions within the main part. This gives them freedom to choose and how they are going to utilize it. It gives them ownership of the material because now it's about them, and it gives us a way to make sure that everybody is engaged because they're each doing it in a way that's best. One kid might need to use their technology to do it. Another kid might need that physical copy. It suits all students in every class, no matter what we're teaching. Okay, so going back to this real quick, the last one, if I go back here, the last one is going to be reading. Obviously, the key strategy here, are we taking these notes and are we giving them an opportunity on a regular basis to reread what they've already done? If you are able to do that, then we've successfully implemented Wicker strategies just with one tool, and that's with our Cornell notes. Now, you do this stuff in lessons. I know, Shannon, you were talking about one-pagers. That's a great Avid strategy too, and it gives them the writing, it gives them the inquiry, it gives them the collaboration if we give them that opportunity, and it gives them the reading. Okay? The organization, that might be part that we don't necessarily see in that particular tool, but again, Wicker strategies don't have to be used that way every single day. We can take the parts that are most essential to what we are trying to impress on the students. All right? Questions on that? So real fast, I want to leave y'all with one thing. So I gave y'all a page that says the curve of forgetting. Okay? If you're asking yourself, why would I even bother using these strategies in class? Why would I bother using Cornell notes? Why would I bother taking the time to show my kids how to do this? This is the answer. This is the why. So if you read it, essentially what it says, on day 1, you know nothing going into your lesson. You know 0% of the material that you're going to get. So you leave the lesson feeling that you know 100% of everything that you've learned. Okay? But by day 2, if you've done nothing with that material, if you haven't written a single note, if you haven't had a single conversation, now you've lost about 50 to 80% of everything you learned on day 1. If you don't use it, you will lose it. Okay? If we go down, it says, by day 7, we remember even less. And by day 30, now we only remember about 2 to 3% of what we learned originally. Of that 100%, only 2 to 3% is what we've retained. So how can we affect that? If we utilize Cornell notes and we use these strategies on a daily basis, getting them in there to collaborate, getting them in there to write, getting them in there to have those inquiry moments, organizing their information, and reading it. If we take all that together, then we are forcing them on a daily basis to go back. Instead of losing that 50 to 80%, we're retaining that 50 to 80% on top of what we already retained. So we are keeping as much of the information as possible at one time. So on the back of the page, it says, here's the formula. Within 24 hours of getting the information, spend 10 minutes reviewing, and you will raise the curve almost 100%. A week later, it only takes 5 minutes to reactivate the material and again raise the curve. And by day 30, your brain will only need 2 to 4 minutes to give you the feedback that you know this, that you understand the material. So if we do this with our kids on a regular basis, this will really help them to be successful in our class. And so I have more strategies. If you need any help or if you want to see some of those strategies and you want some of those tools, I've got these 2 books. You always feel free to take it. There is a CD in the back that has physical copies of all of it that you can print out on your own. I will slowly but surely start putting more of the digital stuff in the classroom that you signed up for. And just last opportunity. Are there any questions that I can help y'all understand what we were doing today? Okay? Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.